Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with random reviews from the Overflow Room. And today, having finished list, we're moving backwards through the alphabet with three really interesting L people. This is really kind of cool. First, what do we have first? We have this thing. Santiago de Murcia, Codex number 4, Mexico, circa 1730. Why is this under L? Well, because the performer is Rolf Lislevand, and I had no other way to figure out where I was going to put this sucker, so I put it under the performer Lislevand. He was a wonderful Baroque guitarist, early music guy. Santiago de Murcia was a Spanish composer who wound up in Mexico and wrote some really cool instrumental music for guitar and ensembles, and they improvise things, and some of it's, and it's really fun. I like anything Spanish. I love Spanish music. My own family has a Sephardic Spanish background in places, and half of it anyway, from zillions of years ago. I don't know if that's the reason. I just find Spanish music irresistibly compelling. And, oh, wow, this was fun. A fun disc of, they're little dance sniglets, fandangos and a folia and a canary and all of that stuff. But some of it is sort of, Afro-Cubano, and some of it is Spanish indigenous, and some of it is European, and they're just, it's a fun recreation of Baroque Spanish guitar music by a master guitarist. So, of course, I hung on to that. Then we've got, he's a very, very interesting guy, Karol Lipiński. Karol Lipiński is a Polish violinist guy, a pre-Wieniawski sort of creature. He was very interesting. I'm very interested in him because he was a vibrato guy. In other words, he's one of those composers who notated vibrato quite frequently. He wrote fantastically virtuosic violin music, and some of it's not as interesting, but from what I've heard, but a lot of it is pretty good, and it's fun to listen to. And I wanted to study scores of his, but there just aren't that many available. It's sort of hard to dig deep down into his music. But here we have, what do we have here? His Overture in D major, avec accompagnement de plusieurs instruments from 1814. He lived from 1790 to 1861. So he had a long and productive life. And his music, like I said, is very richly detailed and carefully written. His Violin Concerto in D major, Opus 2, number 2, Opus 21. His Symphony in B flat, Opus 2, number 3. He wrote them in batches. They're very Haydn, Mozart-esque classical symphonies from about 1810 or before 1810, it says here. And it's interesting to get to know his music. CPO has 2 Lipinski discs. There have been more since. I've got some upstairs too. But we have his Concerto Militaire. That's the Violin Concerto number 2, which is always fun to have a militaire anything. And it's a big work. A big solid work, 32 minutes long. Violin Concerto number 3 and 4. These are single movement things. He wrote all these for himself. Violin Concerto number 1, which is enormous. It's an F sharp minor, and it's 42 minutes long. And then we have the Rondo alla Polacca, Opus 13 in E major, and Bravura variations on a Sur une romance militaire, Opus 22 in D major. So these are with Albrecht Laurent Breuninger. Breuninger is actually just Albrecht Breuninger on this, and he's Albrecht Laurent Breuninger on this disc, with the Polish Radio Symphony Orchestra under Wojciech Rajski. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, Lipinski is a guy who's worth getting to know, and I'm still working on him. I'm going to get there because I want to see the scores. I really want to see the way he wrote, because it's very, very interesting. And, yes, the old EMI Dinu Lipatti edition, which always has to be kept forever. Of course, this has been reissued a zillion times. This one came out, 1990, and it consists of recordings made in 47, 48, 50, 51, and well, then he was dead. It says 61 and 81, but that's when they were published, not when they were made. And Lipatti was Lipatti. He was one of the great pianists that ever lived, one of the great musicians. He was very sick. He died young of leukemia. These are mono recordings, all of them, it says here. Well, no, most of them, all of them, I think. And boy, oh boy, I mean, his Chopin waltzes, and Chopin Sonata No. 3, and Ravel's Alborada del Gracioso, and the Grieg and Chopin Piano Concerto No. 1 for Chopin, and let's see, the Schumann Piano Concerto, and Scarlatti Sonatas, and some Schubert and Bach stuff. I mean, it's all like legendary. It really is. If you're a pianist person, he doesn't need any introduction from me at all whatsoever. And if you're not, depending on, how heavily you want to get into it, you should at least have his Chopin waltzes. I mean, you got to have his Chopin waltzes. They're unbelievable. Just an incredible guy whose legacy was all too small and whose life was all too short. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.